vinyl vision.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the latest episode of Vinyl Vision. This is 58. Very special guest tonight, Paul Dechichio. Before I get into a little bit of description about my guest, Paul, I'd just like to start off by saying happy holidays, everybody. At the moment that this is airing, it will be December 20th, and the holidays are right around the corner. And I just wish you and your family, or whoever you spend the holidays with, a very happy one, and a happy New Year. Now, back to business. Paul Dechichio is my guest. Now, Paul is a talented musician and a entrepreneur, let's just say. He has been in a number of bands. One band that he's been in is called Best Practices. So Paul also runs Tor Johnson Records. And the reason why I was speaking with him for this episode was because he is celebrating his 20th year in business with Tor Johnson Records. It's an amazing accomplishment to have that type of longevity in any business. And in honor of his 20th anniversary, he is choosing to take on a massively challenging subscription series project. So at the time of this release, I know that Paul has already mentioned publicly that there are just under 20 subscriptions left. So I encourage you to please, if you are interested in the subscription series, get it as soon as you can. Get it now, okay? Links will be provided in the show notes. You can go into the show notes and find the link to Tor Johnson Records and purchase it immediately. If you have been on the fence about purchasing that subscription series, this is the show for you. Paul and I go into extreme detail about the subscription series and exactly what it entails and some of the progress of it. It's an enormous undertaking, and I don't say that lightly. I sincerely mean that, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I have purchased my own copy of the subscription series, and so I will be obtaining all of the things that are coming along with it as they roll out. Because obviously it's going to be throughout the year, throughout the next coming year of 2022. So if you follow me on Instagram, I will obviously post about everything that I get very happily and share with you what I get and how I get it, if in the event something happens, because that's a possibility. But I'd like to say thank you to Paul for taking the time to speak with me about that, and also about a record that it's important to him, which his choice for tonight was the special self-titled debut record, which was awesome. I have been known to be a fan of some ska and reggae music, and the Specials are one of the innovators of that whole movement. So it was an amazing opportunity to get into it and to do some analysis and to really kind of dive deeply into it and share some of that time and experience with Paul. It's a great conversation, and I thank you for coming and enjoying it with us. By all means, please do all the things you do with the internet. Like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all those things you do with the internet. We really appreciate it here. And pick up that subscription series. It's going to be well worth it. Trust me. Without further ado, here's our show. So, hi Paul, how are you?
I am well. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm all right, man. It's a pleasure to be here at the, do you call this the studio? What do you call this?
I call it the print shop, but I mean, that's definitely not a well enough description for this room.
Yeah, because
that's like half of it.
It has multiple purposes.
It does have multiple purposes. Part band practice space. At one point in time, it was a show space.
Was it Squid Amps?
No. Squid Amps was.
That was the AJ Land building.
Yeah, that was in AJ Land. It's always been Teeth Like Swords.
Okay.
And then it was named by Jeff Novak, who drums in Darklands and Peace Test, and he's one of the space dads for the space, if you will. But since I annexed more of it for the print shop, there are no more shows.
Oh yeah, right.
That would be very difficult.
Yeah. Plus, you had a couple of complications with Squid Amps because of where it was. I mean, I guess what was his name? Al? No. Tom?
Who, Tom? Yeah.
Yeah. He allowed you to have your shows there, kind of.
Tom was great. Is great. Tom is an awesome individual. So the very, very first show we had there was super last minute and did not obviously run it past him. Tom managed the entire building. And so we had a show. It went great. No problem at all. Got a phone call the next day. Thomas goes, "Hey, so did you have a show in the space last night?" And I go,
Define show.
Yeah. I don't know how to properly answer this without getting evicted.
It was a live practice.
Yeah.
That wasn't a show.
And he was like, "All right, so here's the deal. I wouldn't have known if I didn't get a phone call this morning from a kid who apparently got the phone number off the side of the building saying, 'I just went to a show last night in one of your spaces and it was awesome and I want to rent a space and do that.'" Thanks, kid, whoever you are. Like, I do not know who this was still.
Right.
And so since then, the deal was always like to let him know, give him a heads up, like a week's notice, so that he was just aware that there would be more people in the building.
Right. Because obviously you did it right. You were attentive enough to be respectful of the space, make sure it's all cleaned up, make sure you don't have any kind of vagrants throwing bottles or whatever and breaking stuff.
We were really lucky with that space. For anyone who never went to Squid Amps, AJ Land Building is like next to Dusk, and where the bands used to practice, there was a courtyard in like the middle of the building, and there were a couple entrances to where band spaces were, and we had our own entrance inside the courtyard, so you could just walk right in right from there. So it made it a little bit more secure in the fact that like you're not going to be bothering people out on the street. Like, in between bands, people could hang out in the courtyard. Like, it was able to be a little bit more confined. And so therefore we were able to keep a better eye on it than, places that are just like you have to go inside the building to get to the space to like, et cetera. And there's so many more places that issues could happen.
Right.
Where we were lucky to just have an outside door right there.
Yeah, that's convenient.
Yeah.
I used to have a space in that building.
Oh, no way.
And it was the perfect space. Actually, it probably would have been perfect for what you were doing, because it was actually a pretty big room, probably at least the size of this. And we were sharing it with like 2 other bands at the time. And it was like right in the back side of the building. So how there's that little alleyway behind the building?
Yep.
So you could go down there, and it actually had a wall with like those glass blocks.
Oh, yeah.
So it was so one side of our room was like along the street. And it had its own door. So you'd go into the courtyard area and go walk in the door, and that's how you'd get in.
Were you the one right on the very corner?
Yeah, it was like right on the end.
Was that at the time that you were sharing it with was Quintan in there at the time?
Yes.
Yeah. We were the space right next door.
Right next door.
Yeah.
Christ.
So we were right next door. Could just walk right in straight from the courtyard. It was pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so that's cool. So you just kind of pull in the driveway and turn right
exactly
to your left, and it's right there.
So when bands were practicing, we'd park in the courtyard often. But for shows, we would just have people park on that back street and just walk up.
Oh,
nice
beautiful.
and easy.
Yeah. All right. So that makes me feel better, because I was already done by that point. Like I think I quit that band in 2006. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would make me feel a lot worse if I was just like, oh, it was happening right next door to me. I had no idea.
Yeah, we probably moved in. It was either late 2007, early 2008, and then March of 2008 was the first show we had there.
Yeah.
I don't think we had another one there for a good year or two, though. It didn't start becoming more consistent until 201 closed downtown, and a bunch more viable venues closed, and so we started doing more shows there to sort of make up for it. Yeah.
Well, what a great experience. So, I mean, you don't ever think you'll do anything like that again, do you? You wouldn't do that here.
I would not do that here. There was a point in time where we would do shows here. We probably only did 3 a year. We'd do a summertime barbecue thing because we have a back porch, and then if there was ever a touring band that like then we just couldn't get a venue for. So we've done a couple shows here, but it's definitely not it was never designed to be an actual show space.
Right.
And then now that I've annexed so much more of the communal space for the print shop, it's just, I wouldn't want to damage the equipment.
Right.
So we've all talked about it, and everybody's on the same page that we're not doing shows here anymore.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's enough places. I'm sure you can figure it out.
Exactly.
So I have invited you here today to talk about an album that was important to you, which I'm going to go back and forth a little bit here, but so I asked you to choose a record that you thought was like important to you. I'm not sure exactly the way I worded it to you, but it's somewhere along those lines of like an album that's very influential to you.
Sure.
And what you create and how you kind of got into music, stuff like that. And you chose the Specials' debut album.
I did.
It was perplexing to me at first.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily present as a ska kid, do I? Like I haven't put out any on the label,
Right. I mean, like ska is a very specific genre of music, and you kind of like associate certain people with that genre.
Sure.
Same thing with like rockabilly. I spoke to my good friend Johnny
Oh,
McGuire.
Love Johnny.
Who was in Amazing Crowns.
Yeah.
Rockabilly band, and so that's like a very unique thing, and his choice was, it was fitting for that style of music.
Sure.
So why this album for you?
Good question. So I am going to be turning 40 next year. So therefore, I was in high school in the late 90s. I feel like a lot of people, high school is a really good musical experimentation time. Like you're meeting newer people who have different viewpoints than you do, and you're being exposed to a lot more stuff. I was a band geek growing up. Totally. Played alto saxophone. Was in jazz band.
Yeah.
Loved it. So when you think back to that time frame, ska was very popular.
Right.
It was the boom of radio ska.
Sure.
And I would say that ska was my introduction to non-popular music, if that makes sense. Like non-radio music, let's say that.
Yeah.
Obviously your original introduction would be stuff that's on the radio, but I grew up outside of Boston and within Boston, and there was a large DIY scene at the time. Obviously they're huge right now, but in 1996, 97, Big D and the Kids Table were a nothing band that played Boston all the time and had their own record label and did their own thing. And it's hard to think about that now when you see how much larger they are as a band. But at the time, they were very much a DIY band that you could approach. And so ska was my entry point, if you will, into more underground music. And so this record, the way I took the assignment, if you will, quote unquote.
Sure.
This record is very important to me as a record. It's not necessarily my favorite record. It's not necessarily my favorite band. But this physical piece of media is very important to me. I went to school in Boston, and often I would do the Newbury Street walk. So I went to school on the Red Line. So you'd get off on Park Street, walk across the park, go down Newbury Street, and so you would hit Mystery Train first.
Okay.
Do your dig in Mystery Train. Stop off at CD Spins, because maybe they might have some used stuff that for $1, that whatever. Then you'd hit that Newbury Comics, and that Newbury Comics always had great stuff because they were still buying consignment off bands and would have all sorts of weird random stuff. And then lastly, you would hit Tower Records and probably not actually buy anything. And then you take the train home. Yeah. So I found this record I was probably a sophomore, so 97.
Okay.
In Mystery Train, and I remember it distinctly. It was in a box underneath the bin. It wasn't in the bin, it was in the box underneath that I was digging in. and I think I had just seen them on the Warped Tour the summer before. So like, it's a record that I have a very tangible memory of that has been in my collection for that entire time. Like, I didn't sell it and rebuy it.
This is the actual copy
This
you
is
got.
the same copy
Wow.
from '97. Same copy. Yeah.
Cool. And it's an original from, I think, 80 is what we said.
Yep. Yeah. It's an original Chrysalis U.S. release. Later on, years later, I purchased a French import for my partner, and so technically that's part of her collection, but I still brought it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You've married your
Yeah.
collections at this point.
At this point, I mean, we've been together since 2004, so I think yeah. So
It warrants it.
It warrants it. It warrants the record collections merging.
Sure. So that's funny. So do you remember what you bought this for? How much you spent?
I want to say it was unpriced. I remember it was unpriced, and the dude I think was like, I don't know, $5.
Nice.
And I was like, sounds good. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, okay. Because this is a fairly valuable record. I mean, do you do a lot of research as far as because you're obviously a collector. So do you get all wiggy and nerdy about like the pressings and like the variants and like what pressing plans so forth?
Yes and no.
Okay.
If I want to have a record in my collection, I don't really care.
Right.
But I will happily upgrade my copy. I will try to know like about what they're worth, about like, I have, instead of using Discogs for my personal collection, I literally have a Google Drive. Like, my entire collection is on a Google Drive, so I don't buy doubles because I was buying too many doubles.
Right.
And it's like, I'll buy a double if it's an upgrade. But
Yeah.
I was like finding myself just buying the same record because I'll be flipping through the store and be like, I fucking love this record. This is an awesome record. I'm gonna buy it.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I get home and have two copies. I'm like,
Right.
oh, why do I need? I don't need a third one either.
Okay, wait, so are you a purist as well? Because, like, let's say, because I deal with records, and so
Sure.
sometimes I'll get copies, like
Yeah.
multiples of a release, and but the problem with that is that if you're trying to sell it back to another collector for some reason, if you don't want to sell it at all,
Sure.
you don't want to taint the kind of like, let's call it the lineage of that record. Like if you have like a really good vinyl of this copy, but the jacket's beat to shit, and then you find a jacket of that same album, do you marry them?
I have been known to, but also I guess I'm less of a collector and more of an appreciator.
Sure.
I don't bag my records.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people like. A lot of friends have seen my collection and complain about, because in my opinion, records are for listening to.
Right.
Like it's not doing any good just like on the shelf in a bag. So I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna listen to it and I'm gonna streamline the process and
Right.
I just want to grab the record and off it goes.
Yeah.
So yes, on some records, there are some records that are prized in my collection and I'll like look to upgrade and I'll look to like make them the best copies possible, but also just having it and knowing that it plays through without skipping is like,
Right.
there we go.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. But as a buyer, let's
Sure.
say you were buying something and
Yeah.
you realize somebody kind of like married two of them. Because you know how sometimes like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
jacket
yeah,
will
yeah.
have like a number on the bottom, like especially really old ones,
Sure.
like and that'll designate kind of like where it was pressed or printed or whatever. Is that an issue for you?
It will irk me. It will. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it might not irk me so much that I need to go find the right, like make it right.
Yeah.
If I come across it, then I'll come across it, and like I'm cool with that. I'm also like a weird collector where like, and this is also, I hate to say this because I have a web store. Like the label has a massive web store. I hate buying online. It's the thrill of the hunt.
Sure.
I like finding it, you
Yeah.
know? So I won't pass up a record knowing that it's like the wrong pressing and the wrong sleeve as like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if later on down the line I can like find the right thing, then that'd be sweet.
Sure. Yeah. That puts stuff aside.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
like
yeah.
a little cubby kind of designate to like, oh, this is the Frankenstein bin where I can maybe piece these things together in the future, maybe.
Totally. I have like an extra column in my drive of like notes. So I'll be like, U.S. pressing in the Euro sleeve or like, whatever. Yeah.
How funny. All right. Well, so speaking of your store, I guess that is probably a connection to Tor Johnson Records in general, right? You kind of, that's what you sell everything under?
Definitely. Yeah. Anything music related is under Tor Johnson Records. So I've had a web store like sort of attached to it for probably like over 15 years now, and it came out of trading with other labels. So I want my records to be out there as much as humanly possible, like in as many distros as possible, in as many stores as possible, etc. And the easiest way to do that, to convince someone to take your record, is trading, as opposed to somebody buying something blind. You know, somebody in Colorado who's never heard of the little Rhode Island band that I'm putting out isn't going to be like, oh yeah, sure, here's some money,
Right.
But are more than happy to be like, oh yeah, I'll trade you 5 copies of something I just put out for 5 copies of whatever you put out. Like, why not?
Oh, that's cool.
So then their stuff gets here and like my stuff gets there. And so most of the web store is sort of like spiraled out of that.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Huh. Coming from, congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
On your 20-year anniversary for your label.
Thank you so much.
It's a great achievement, great accomplishment.
It's sure is something.
Yeah. And so to honor your 20th birthday in business, you're doing your subscription series.
Yeah. So for 10 years I did a compilation 7-inch with like a big download code, and then for 15 years I did an LP. And how do I one up that? I know. How about 12 different split 7-inches? So.
Yeah. In addition, so one 7-inch delivered to the buyer throughout the rest of 2022.
Yep, exactly.
And then you have freebies you're throwing in as well.
Yeah, the goal is to do about 6 different freebies. So the first one I've already announced is a 45 adapter. Because
so you can play all those beautiful records.
Exactly, because the whole vibe of the entire thing is like old school 45s, like old school like 40s and 50s style. They're not all 45 RPM records, but they're all going to have the big hole.
Okay.
So we're doing a 45 adapter, which was designed by local comic artist M. Robillard. And then there's going to be a couple t-shirts, probably a tote bag. I'm trying to think of other stuff. Probably a local artist is going to do a poster. I might do like enamel pins, like stuff like that.
And that's all coming with the subscription.
Yep.
So for $250, which is what you're asking for, right?
Which includes shipping.
Include shipping. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
It's because the punk in me is like 7 inches are supposed to be $5, but I'm only pressing 100 of each one of these. So cost alone, like just for vinyl, is like $8 each.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, all right, so I need to do the math and make it worthwhile for someone to actually like spend this. So
yeah, I mean, I would say that the buyer is getting their money's worth.
I hope so.
I mean, you're getting 12 7-inch records, which are going to be unique and rare.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be strange couplings of all of the bands that you have.
It's actually a bunch of bands that aren't even on the label that we're just friends with and we've interacted with before, like booked shows for. So there's 23 bands. One of the 7 inches is not a split. And of the 23 bands, 5 of them
Are not on the label.
are on the label.
Oh, are on.
All the rest of them are bands.
All the rest are guests.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
All the rest are bands that we are very lucky to have involved. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're bands that are on labels much bigger than ours.
And so that provides a little bit of kind of incentive. I'm speaking like the fucking record seller that I am.
I love it.
It provides an incentive for a collector
Yeah.
to get these really rare records that are going to be presented in a format that they will never be in again.
Exactly.
Because these are also limited to like the artists that are donating these songs to this collaboration. they are not releasing these tracks anywhere else for at least the whole year.
Yes. So the entire year of 2022, the only way to hear these songs will be on the records. They're not going to be released digitally until basically 2023. It's up to the artist's discretion as to if or how they want to release them, and then I'll be putting all of them as one massive comp on my Bandcamp. So it'll be one ridiculously huge compilation digitally, and then in terms of Spotify and things of that nature, I'm leaving it up to the artist's discretion.
Okay.
Some of the artists have asked to be able to release stuff later in the future. So I know Thou likes to put out compilation LPs, LPs of all the weird singles and splits that they've done. And so I was like, yeah, have fun. Two of the bands want to put out a less rare, probably a cassette or something like that, redo the split as a less rare commodity.
Okay.
But I told them as long as they wait till 2023, they can have a ball.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now I'm not asking this for myself and to try to, say, try to imply hey, what else you gonna give me for free? what else am I getting with this bundle? But you mentioned the download things. Are the releases in the subscription series going to have any kind of download? In the last month, I will be sending out a free download for the Bandcamp full compilation. Oh, okay.
So basically it's 50 subscribers. So we're pressing only 100 of each LP. And so those 50 people are the ones getting all the extras, they'll get the download code sent to them. If anything else that comes out in 2022, they're going to get on an exclusive color with no extra purchase. So
from Tor Johnson Records.
Oh, yeah. So anything else I put out, there will be 50 of an exclusive color that you're going to just get in the mail. You don't have to buy it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're nuts.
I love giving shit away. I don't know. This is also why it's not my real job.
Right.
This is why I don't pay my bills with this record label.
Sure. Right.
But yeah. So, and all the songs are exclusive to or new.
Right.
None of them have been released before.
Yeah.
And the other 50 of each pressing, 20 are going to each band. So they'll have some available at shows, things of that nature, that you can buy just their one from them.
Right.
And then there are going to be a couple stores that have wholesale subscriptions with me.
Oh, okay.
So that's where those last 10 are going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so just 10, is that going to be a box? How are you going to do that? It's not going to be because you're not going to have all of them at once to send those out.
To the stores?
Right.
Stores will also get a monthly as the subscriber does.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So stores will get the January one. They can sell them in January. The two bands on the January one will have their copies. They can start selling them in January.
Wild.
And then so on and so on.
Wild.
Yeah.
Crazy. I just thought of something which just irks me just thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
What happens if something gets lost in the mail?
Sorry.
Yeah, just shit out of luck. There's nothing you can do about it.
No, at all. I mean, I try to obviously take care of customers when there are situations like that.
Right. But these are just so limited. I mean, there's not going to be any kind of reserve, any kind of backup. Right.
If it gets broken in the mail, I'm real sorry. That sucks. If it gets lost,
all right.
Figure it out. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's scary.
It is scary. But knock on wood.
Yeah, there's that wood.
There's wood. There's wood over there. Knock on wood. In the 20 years, there hasn't been that many issues.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, USPS will get your shit there eventually.
I should know.
Yeah.
I work for them.
See?
Yeah.
Eventually.
I do my best.
It'll get there eventually. It's
Eventually,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Not necessarily timely, but eventually.
For included shipping, it's going media mail.
Yeah.
So
right.
It'll get there when it gets there.
Right. I mean, yeah, you can't ask for much more. Plus, all of the other stuff you're giving with the subscription, I mean, I feel like it kind of makes up for it.
I'm trying. Yeah,
I mean, a shirt, a tote bag, enamel pens, all of these things it's really costly.
It can be. Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope everyone. You'll have very few left.
Yeah, I'm halfway sold out at this point.
Okay.
So there's 25 spots left.
And you're cutting it off by the end of the year.
I'm cutting it off by the end of the year. If there are still slots available, we'll see what I do.
Sure.
I might end up selling those individually. I might allow late subscriptions. Like, I haven't really decided what I'm going to do if for some weird reason I don't sell 50 spots.
Right. Well, I mean, it seems like you're already getting there, so it's probably more likely than not that it's going to happen.
Probably.
I'm gonna get my own, actually.
Oh, there you
I
go.
haven't done it yet, but when I go home today,
You're going to grab it?
I'm gonna grab it. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
I'm excited.
me too.
Before we go, I'll show you the. I have a bunch of the sleeves printed here.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll show you the sleeves.
Cool.
It's a ripoff of an old Atlantic sleeve.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
The horizontal lines, right?
Yeah. I'm excited how that came out.
Yeah, it looks great. I saw it. I saw you post a
Oh
photo
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I posted it on Instagram.
I'd love to take
Yeah,
a look
check
at
'em
that
out.
personally.
Yeah.
While I'm here. So I'm super excited for you for that. It's a great idea. Very ambitious of you.
Thank you.
I wish you all the luck with it. I hope nothing gets lost. I hope nothing gets broken, and I hope everybody that gets it is super happy with it.
Me too. It's been an interesting process. The whole idea at this point is probably like 2 years old. Like I came up with the idea just before pandemic as like, oh, this is probably something that I should start thinking about.
Right.
Like, we're getting there. And then initially the idea was only to do like 6 or 7 of them, like do like bi-monthly and just involve bands on the label and like, you know, do something fun like that. And it was in talking with Tyler Daniel Bean, who's on the label, where he was like, you know a lot of people. You booked a lot of bands like before they were big. You know a lot of bands. Just ask.
Right.
And that's where that's how we ended up with the list that we ended up with.
Yeah. Wild. Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I would have just gone the 6, just to provide less work for you. But
come on,
it's a great idea.
I'm a masochist at this point.
Right. Well, I mean, hey, that's why I'm saying best of luck. I hope all
Thank
goes
you.
over well because it's such a like monumental undertaking.
Thank you. Yeah.
Even with you at your experience, 20 years in, I mean, you know what you're doing, but
I like
this
to
is a lot.
pretend I do.
Well, yeah, you gotta fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Everything at this point looks relatively on schedule. The first shipment will probably be mid-January instead of like early January. But 5 are at the plant and test presses will be done this week, and then 4 more just went off to the plant. And as of recording this, I'm only waiting on 2 bands to actually give me their music out of 23 bands.
Those are the last releases.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've already told them. I'm like, you're December.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
That's how that's working.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, the plants are already delayed. I mean, I'm surprised that you're going to be able to make that happen alone. Like, that alone is the biggest, like, kind of thing hanging over your head, I would assume.
Definitely. I'm definitely lucky in the fact that I've been working with the same amazing label since, like, 2008, maybe 2008ish.
You're talking pressing plant.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
pressing plant.
Yeah.
Music Hall in Columbus, Ohio, is amazing. It's a super small family-run spot, and Warren that runs it and owns it is the best. Like, so he was definitely excited about the idea. They, have been pressing 45 since since it was a thing, and he likes the concept and has promised me that January will be in hands to ship in time. So keeping my fingers crossed. But,
All right.
But they treat me well. So
That's great.
yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I think that kind of covers that for the time being.
Yeah.
We're certainly going to keep on talking about it, but I do want to get into this record with you.
Sure.
Because it's been quite an experience learning about the specials. So I'm similar to you. I'm a little older than you. I'm actually already 41. So
Gotcha.
this was kind of my era too. I did get into ska as a young kid. Mid to late teen. And henceforth the same progression of like, okay, ska's cool, ska's fun. What else is there? Punk rock kind of shows up, and then kind of just go deep into the whole catalog of like crazy classic rock, proto-punk, Stooges, and so forth until now I like noise rock.
Sure.
and you kind of sounds like you kind of the same progression, because you do a lot of noise rock, heavy rock, metal.
Yeah, exactly. Boston in the early 2000s was an interesting time where there was a really, really thriving ska, street punk, and straight edge hardcore scene. Like all three of those were existing at the same time. 10 Yard Fight at the same time as Dropkick Murphys getting their start, at the same time as the Boss Tones blowing up. Like, I guess I'm sort of a interesting like case study where I kept music from each of the like genres as I would go. Like, I know a lot of people like started out with ska, but then found something different and was just like, yeah, fuck ska,
and just sold off
and,
their
and
records and everything,
and just were like, all right, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And like, I still like a lot of things from like all those aspects. So
Sure.
Nowadays, like, I definitely find myself really listening to like two sort of distinct genres where I like a lot of like stoner metal, like post metal, like more like Mouth of the Architect, Cult of Luna, like elongated stuff like that. I like a lot of like noisy stuff, but I like most of my noisy stuff live.
Yeah.
Over record. I listen to the records. I love them.
Sure.
But it's definitely an experience, more of an experience live. Or I listen to a lot of like super mellow indie rock.
Yeah.
Like, and those are like sort of like the two genres that are like that I'm sticking with right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I love listening to a Specials record. I love listening to like even some of the newer stuff that's been coming out. The like new Catbite record is really good. Like, in terms of ska stuff. And I don't know.
So you're keeping up with it, but it's not your main thing.
Exactly.
Cool.
I'm also in a weird place where my partner actually does a ska podcast. So we have a lot of ska in the house. She is very much into like more first wave, like more reggae influenced like stuff.
Sure.
So
kind of like this.
Kind of like this, like Scatolites, like stuff like that. Yeah. It's so we always have music going in the house. It depends on who's running the turntable at the time. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I bet it's a very musical house.
That's fun.
All right, so we're going to listen to this record, at least little portions of it.
Yeah.
While we go over some of the songs, because we will skip a few, actually, some of them.
Sure.
I will ask you some questions based on the music. So let's go ahead. Oh, and you got... I need to take a look at this, too, just because this is very cool for me. I haven't seen one of these at all.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. These
So-
are two different pressings. This is the French one?
That's the French one.
Oh, cool. Look at that.
So they flipped the images, where on the back cover they used what's on the front cover of the French one,
Yeah.
and then on the front cover of the U.S. one, they used what's on the back cover of the French one.
Yeah, and all of the pressings since, like all of the reissues, they've mixed up this artwork.
They do. Yeah, they switch them around.
Yeah. I like this though. I like the way this looks. I like the way this feels too.
Yeah,
Those foreign pressings are interesting.
It's interesting when you can actually like tell just from feeling the cardboard, like feel the finish on the two of them.
Oh no, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it's
And
crazy.
like English pressings are really weird because it's such like flimsy jackets, like just like a really like light cardboard.
And then UK jackets will have like that weird gluing on the outside instead of the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they on the inner sleeve they'll have like the cornered, like the cut corners. Yeah, it's so weird. I love it. All right, well, let's get into the first track. I'll be careful with these. Don't worry.
Oh, no. You're good. You're good. I trust you.
Let's get into the first track. A message to you, Rudy. Sounds great, man.
Classic.
Yeah, man, this is great. I mean, this is a classic song. Everyone probably knows this song.
It's the one. It's the one. Or Ghost Town. It's like this one or Ghost Town. Everyone knows.
Chronologically speaking, though, Ghost Town was the end of the Specials.
Yes, right.
So I didn't find out too much about this band. Like, there was so much about this band. I was hesitant to kind of really get into it and like really try to do some of the research, because it's like, I'm going to go into like a friggin' history lesson going learning about like what was going on exactly. So I'm not versed in it. I'm going to say that up front and be honest, is this like, I'm not a historian at all. And I was like, it was just so much to get into. I mean, it's just like, there's stuff that they mention in the songs, like the IRA, the UDA, the National Front.
Yep.
It's like, these are such like crazy historic things that it was just a lot to take on, to try to take on.
Totally. It's interesting to see to listen to a band that was writing pretty political stuff at the time and writing it in a manner based on what was happening, but in such a way that I don't know if this was purposeful at the time, that so much of these songs hold up.
Oh yeah.
But then like when you really dive into it, you're like, oh, they were talking about like this very specific thing that happened in this very specific year. That's kind of crazy. But like you can listen to the song and be like, oh, this is a great song. Like so many of these lyrics still like hit and matter, Oh,
of course.
Yeah.
Especially today. Like,
totally.
I mean, it seems like for some odd reason, like what we're going through currently in this country seems to be particularly poignant to what they were going through at the time, late 79 into 80.
Totally.
In the UK with racism in general, because this is a mixed race band.
Right.
And that was
very purposefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look even at this time frame, you had Madness, and Madness is a 100% white band.
Right.
And their music was less, if not at all, political. Like it was like very, like I can make a living doing this though.
Party music.
Yeah. And Specials definitely like looked at it from a very different point of view, and it's still made like a lot of it's fun music. It can be, ska in general is at least musically a happy music. You're dealing with upstrokes. You're not really dealing with many minor chords. It's but by taking a serious political look at it, it like was a good juxtaposition to that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, listening to this record, I don't think I've ever listened to this record in its entirety before. I've certainly heard songs off of it.
Totally.
And it's certainly, it's got that reggae ska vibe.
Exactly.
And it's been upbeat, and it's been like a really strange kind of palate cleanser for me, because I'm just like, wow, this music's like uplifting and it feels good. But at the same time, you start to listen to the words and you're like, oh, this is like some serious shit going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So this track, though, A Message to You, Rudy, as a cover, so it got changed a little bit. The title was changed a little bit. And the only thing actually I have to ask you about this is in relation to, we were going over a little bit of your history and we didn't actually get too deep. But in this song, there's that very popular chorus. So I wanted to ask you, when do you think you stopped your fooling around?
I mean, better question though, have I?
Have you stopped? Yes, that is true.
Like, I feel like that's the better question.
Now, there's different aspects too, because there's your grown-up real life. You have a partner. You don't have children.
No.
So you can fool around in that regard, because as a single, I mean not single, but I mean as a non anchored adult, you still have a lot of availability, a lot of free time, a lot of free stuff you can do.
True.
The business, 20 years into the record business, there's a certain point where maybe you have to stop thinking of it as just like, whatever, just put it out. Like,
yeah.
You have to be a little bit more tactful in what kind of release you're going to take on.
Definitely. From that aspect of things, I would say probably... maybe like 10 years ago, I started needing to really concentrate on what came in and what didn't, or what came out and what didn't. I was working a job that maybe didn't necessarily give me as much flexible income. And so definitely more thought came into, is this record actually going to sell, than do I like it?
Right.
You know? But even then, now with the advent of tapes, and like, that's not to say that, like, I'm not trying to shit on any tape releases that I've put out, like, or whatever.
Sure.
But tapes are cheap enough now, and people actually buy them, that there's a lot more flexibility of just putting out fun shit that you really like.
Sure.
Than vinyl provides you. Like, vinyl definitely like needs to be like, all right, is this actually going to sell? Like, yeah. So,
Right.
I guess in that aspect, yeah, probably like 10 years ago or so, I started really like needing to think about that a little bit more. But in terms of general life, like, I'm very lucky to live the life I live. Like, I work for myself at this point in time. Don't have kids. If I want to go to a show on a Tuesday, I can. If I want to sit on the couch, I can. Like, so I guess in that aspect, I'm very lucky to say I'm still fooling around.
Yeah.
You know?
And fooling around is important.
It really is.
You need to fool around every now and
Very important. Very important.
then. Just not like these guys, because these guys
Well,
are...
yeah, I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
go to jail. I'm not trying to catch a case.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a safe foolery.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's move on to the next track.
Sure.
Do the Dog. The beautiful part about having the record here, which I don't get to do often anymore, is that I can kind of just drop it anywhere.
Yeah. Can we talk about that break that you just took the needle off from?
Sure.
Man, anybody out there listening that makes hip-hop beats, do something with that break. How is that break not, like, a super popular, like, drum break?
I wonder. I mean, someone's got to have
Someone's
used it.
got to have done it. I
Yeah.
assume so. But it's like, that's such a good break.
It is a good break. Yeah, that
Anyway.
was a good drum break.
You know?
It's true. I mean, it's funny listening to records a lot more these days. I do start to think about that a little bit more often. I mean, I'm not like a DJ of any sort.
Sure.
But I know some people that do use samples and stuff like that. And so sometimes now I think for them, it's just like, okay, if I see him again, I might let him know about this thing I heard.
Right.
That's cool.
Right?
But yeah, that's great. Let's somebody do it.
Right? Somebody out there in Radio Land.
Do the Dog. Now, this was a tricky one for me, because I think that's a similar, like, that, just that phrase, very popular throughout rock music.
Sure.
You hear about doing the dog all over the place, even as far back as, like, the Velvet Underground, and possibly even further.
Totally.
So I kind of, like, looked it up, because I was like, what is doing the dog?
Sure.
So, from the Urban Dictionary, there was a definition I found of a popular and traditional British game, doing the dog, mostly played in the Wessex countries, whereby two players depart a pub and walk home in opposite directions. At regular intervals of 30 to 60 seconds, player 1 will shout, "Can you hear me now?" followed by an impression of a dog, wolf, or other member of the canine family. Player 2 responds to his call with, "Yes, can you hear me now?" followed by his dog impression. This is a fucking crazy, ridiculous game. I don't know if this really happens. If it does, the UK is a strange place to hang.
I'd be interested to know if it happens now.
Right.
In, like, a digital age. Like, in 1980 or 79, like, when, I don't know, what are you going to do when you're drunk and walking home with your friends?
It made sense at the time. I was thinking, like, specifically this era. I was just like, yeah, this sounds about right.
Sure.
They could probably do something stupid like that. And there's probably a lot of drinking going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's England. Aren't there, like, pubs every corner?
You know what? It's funny. I spent some time in the UK, and I don't remember. I feel like I had a hard time finding drinks.
Oh, all right.
But I don't know. I could
Yeah.
just be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
Movies have completely ruined the UK for me, apparently.
No, I'm sure. I mean, they have pubs, obviously. I don't know if I just noticed
Sure.
like how
Yeah.
frequently I would come across them. I was also really broke, so it's
Well,
not like
fair.
I was
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
spend
yeah.
a lot of time in the pubs. As much as I'd like to think that that's what this song is about, it certainly has the similar theme that we'll come across through the album of tense race and political relations of the time. So, has there ever been a time when you think you could say you bit the hand that feeds you?
That's a good question.
And I'll just follow that up by saying that bite the hand that feeds you is they specifically mention that in the chorus.
Right.
So
as doing the dog,
right,
not the donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, I've definitely made decisions in my life that, like, I guess maybe screwed me more than like me biting the hand that feeds me, if you will. Where I've worked shitty jobs so that I could be in a band and tour, and like not necessarily used college degrees or used a high school degree or done, stuff like that. And but it's not necessarily, unless you're talking about your own hand that feeds you, more living up to somebody else's idea of potential,
right,
if you will.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
yeah, especially having gone to school, because you did go that route. You went to Johnson & Wales.
yeah, I did. I have 2 degrees. I mean, technically, I guess I use one of them now.
It's a business degree?
It is. It's I have a bachelor's in entrepreneurship.
Oh.
So, finally, how many years later? I guess I might as well own a business.
Well, you kind of been working on it.
Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, you can always say that the label and even the printing was I forget how you said it, was like under the table or
Totally.
A passion project.
Yeah.
But realistically, it was working towards this point where you're now 20 years in.
True.
And established.
Yeah. I like the way you put it. I'm gonna have to play this excerpt from my parents. No, see.
No, I think it's true. I mean, because my wife busts my balls because I supposedly have this business, which is record sales,
Sure.
record label, and a bunch of like media production in general. So I never intended for any of these things to be a reality, really.
Sure.
I never planned any of it. It was just like, oh, let me try that.
Yeah.
And then now here I am almost 4 years later doing all of these things.
Exactly.
So I'm like, there's a certain aspect of that where you kind of have to just kind of take it as it comes and just kind of parlay into the next thing. And it's all of the interests that I have.
Totally.
Obviously,
Yeah,
all of these
same.
things are your interests as well.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting seeing what develops that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a matter of figuring out when does it become a job? When does it become
Exactly.
like a legitimate business, if that's what you want to call it?
Right. Like, even though we're going into 20 years, the label is not real in the case of the U.S. government or me paying taxes, because I'm just going to say I took a loss every single year.
Well, yeah. I mean, tax-wise, it certainly makes sense. I
Exactly.
mean, if you can't claim profits, then what is
Then
the
why am
point
I
of-
bothering?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And it's because I fucking love it. So that's why I don't tell the government.
well, it's because what is it? It's not going to help you any.
No,
it's not
at
going
all.
to help them any.
At all.
Yeah.
No, exactly. It's I always like to say it's my expensive hobby.
Yeah. And you're an anarchist, so
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Fuck them. All right, let's move on to the next song. It's Up to You. Great song. It's Up to You. What we were just listening to kind of is the most poignant part. It's the repetitive theme of "It's up to you," and it seems to me to be very uplifting, very positive, because it's sending a message of like, basically, kind of like what we were just talking about. It's up to us to make up our minds of what we're going to do with our lives, kind of.
Totally. It's interesting considering, like, obviously they were on Chrysalis. Chrysalis was a massive label. This song totally has that like DIY mentality. Like that chorus that you came in on, where it's basically like, if you don't like it, you don't have to dance. Like, it's fine. I'm making this music for me. Like,
yes.
If you like it, rad. But it's up to you. Like, do you like it? Cool. Do you not like it? That's fine.
Right.
Like, I love that mentality of like, this is my art, I'm creating it for me. And like, if you like it, rad. That's awesome.
Right.
Cool. But if you don't, that's okay too. I don't care.
Right. It doesn't bother me if you don't like it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. That is that was certainly one of the things that I thought of when I heard this as well. Though the song does have a couple of different themes.
Sure,
So if
true.
you listen to the whole thing, right? So the first part was kind of like what we kind of touched on a little bit, was the first couple of verses seem to be the band at its at wits with an underwhelmed audience.
Right.
Like they're kind of, as we were just saying, it's just like, you like it, great. Don't like it, we don't care.
Yeah.
Let me see, I have some sample lyrics here. Stand there like parked cars if you want to. We can't force you to enjoy this music. Take it or leave it, we'll carry on regardless. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. With those lyrics in mind, in all your experience with booking shows and going to them, can you think of an example of a band or artist truly winning over an audience?
Many. Okay. All right, hang on. Okay, this is a hip hop artist, Blueprint. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's from Minneapolis. Really amazing artist. Was playing the living room during a snowstorm. Yeah. There was maybe 20 of us there. Maybe. And like, I have never seen someone command a crowd the way he did. Like, it started out, everybody's just like, whatever, I'm gonna drink some beers, like, watch this dude. It's fine. Yeah. By like 3 songs, like, people were up front, people, like, he doing the call and response, like, he was, the way he commanded the crowd, it could have been sold out, it could have been like at, you know,
right,
the Garden.
And that it wasn't a crowd.
It wasn't a crowd.
20 people in the living room?
Yeah, that place was massive. Like, you know, it was very interesting. Huh. And he just, like, you could just see everyone just change. Like, everybody get into it. And, like, I can't even remember, like, how. Like, he did it. It was just magical.
Right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Nightclub with a K. For some reason, that song seems to be like the epitome of like ska music to me.
Okay.
You know, like I hear that and I think of like, it automatically makes me think of like so many ska bands that I've heard in the past. You know, it makes me think of the Toasters, makes me think of King Chango, makes me think of like Bim Scala Bim.
Totally. You know what it is? The bass tone in that song is so interesting. Like, the treble is up like all the way, and like you partner that with like the it's not piano, it's you know, the organ. It's that super now stereotypical like ska sound.
Right.
You know, where
it's very hoppy.
Oh yeah.
Very much a you know, like that kind of tempo to it.
Yep. Yeah. Which is funny because at the time they were making fun of club kids. They were making fun of kids who, like, you know, go out and dance to like dance music every night, and like why are you spending this much money just going to the club? Like, you know, and so I feel like a lot of their decision on speed and their decision on like tone was based on like them trying to poke fun at these people, which was kind of interesting. Yeah. That now that's turned into like the ska sound.
Yeah, huh?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I was listening to the song and kind of like I had that idea in my head for some odd reason, but now again, kind of like trying to think of like where are these people at this time in their lives, in their country, like where they are geographically. It sounded like so it's a fun number, but with like a bleak lyrical take.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because I was thinking about what I did know about the history and thinking like, oh, this is actually a very like poverty-stricken time in the country that they're living in. I mean, like there's a serious lack of employment. There's a massive underemployment going on, so everyone's broke. So I was thinking like there must be something to the aspect of them kind of playing the part of the band at the club. There's just like all these weird things going on there, like because obviously they kind of are club people in a sense because they are, you know, a band that had to play somewhere.
Sure.
Now, just keeping the whole aspect of the nightclub in mind, it's what is your favorite place to see a show?
Ever or currently?
Let's start with currently.
Currently. Okay. Locally, I would say I'm like divided between Dusk and I'd say like I guess News Cafe, because both have that like almost could be DIY vibe, you know, because they're both small, they're both intimate. I really like that. Like coming from somebody who grew up on like VFW shows and like grew up on like more smaller DIY stuff. I like that. That said, I do like the new alchemy setup in what used to be Art Barn.
Oh, okay.
I like their new setup. I love Askew, but Askew only does like softer, we'll say quote unquote softer music, because they have condos above them, so it's not like they're getting metal bands.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that locally.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about nationally? It seems that you do travel a lot.
It's been a while, but is it even still there?
It's okay if it's not still there. If you had a good experience there.
I loved Strange Matter in Richmond. Strange Matter was awesome. Actually, Kung Fu Necktie in Philly is really, really rad. I love that space. Yeah. I'd go with those guys.
Okay.
Nationally. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned two of the clubs locally that I consider to be kind of like dive bar-ish.
Sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Dusk is a little neater, but kind of still divey.
Sure.
So Nastiest Dive?
Ooh. Nastiest Dive.
We've lost a couple here on
We
Rhode Island.
really have. I miss E&O so much, talking about dives.
I don't know if I would qualify that as a dive.
You don't think so?
I mean, they were kind of like clean, kind of neat.
Yeah, that's
in a
true.
sense.
That's
I
fair.
mean, you know, you can get a cheap beer there for sure.
Yeah,
and it has
yeah,
the
yeah.
clientele to fit the bill. But
True. That's true.
but like, oh my God, what was the place on Steeple Street? The One Up.
Oh, One Up?
Oh my God.
Loved the One Up. The One Up was great. I actually owned the record store that was there after Al did.
Catharsis, right?
Yeah, Cathartic, yeah.
Cathartic, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, the One Up was really good. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't been
Safari
to
Lounge is gone.
Yep.
That was a good dive.
Safari Lounge was a great dive. Only place you could really see you could have a drink with a snake. Only place.
Drink with a snake?
The owner used to have a snake that he'd have with him like half the time.
Yeah.
That massive snake, just like hanging out for no reason.
I almost got tossed out of the bar by Jimmy.
Oh, did you?
I got real close. I got so close, I don't remember it. Everybody else told me it's like he was about to fucking pick you up and throw your ass out.
That's good.
Yeah.
I always love in Boston the Model is a classic.
Okay.
Love going to the Model. Yeah, man, I haven't been to a dive in a while.
Yeah.
Miss it.
You like a dive though, right?
Oh, I love a dive.
Okay.
Love a dive. It's there's a lot of good people watching at a dive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is always fun.
Yeah, unless you're that person.
Well, fair, unless you're being watched.
Because that was me. All right. Let's move on to the next song. Doesn't Make It All Right. We're gonna take a little left turn.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
It's definitely a middle of the record vibe.
Yeah. There's there's two tracks. There's like two tracks left on this side, isn't there?
Yeah.
But yeah, this song is really a touching, heartfelt thing. I mean, you can kind of feel it in the music. They bring it definitely, tone it down, but lyrically. So this is the song that could probably synthesize down the overall frustration the band felt about racism. I feel like there's this easiness, like a gentle letting down of calling out the behavior of racism, and calling out simply that there's just no excuse for it.
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful song in a way to bring that attention to the problem. Okay, I have to use some of the lyrics here because it's just so clever.
Sure.
The way he does it. So, so just a sample of it is just because you're a black boy, just because you're a white, it doesn't mean you've got to hate him. It doesn't mean you've got to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So just the way that he kind of like is able to address both of the classes, both not classes, but the demographics.
Sure.
And let them both know simultaneously what you're thinking is like essentially wrong, and you're doing the wrong thing. Think of it like do the right thing in a way, in a sense.
Right.
So, so here, this is kind of a big one. All right. Is there any other steps or suggestions that you can think of for improving race relations?
Oh, Jesus. I am underqualified to address that. From a, we'll say from a punk standpoint, it is creating an open space. And like, it's very easy, especially in a town that is small like this one, and so many people know each other. It's very easy to accidentally gatekeep, and it's very easy to make people not feel welcome. And you can obviously take this outside of just shows and outside of, you know, things of that nature.
Sure.
But it's very easy to just talk to your friends, and it's very easy to make it feel like people are not welcome, even though that's not necessarily what you are trying to do. Easiest thing to do is to talk to somebody. Like, you see a random person at a show you've never seen before, say hi. Things like that. Right. Currently, especially in the hardcore scene, there is a wonderful, wonderful influx of non-white, non-male bands, and it is so amazing to see. And the best thing to do is to book those bands, go see those bands, buy their merch, like talk to them. Like, they are making the effort to exist in non-white spaces, and so assisting them to continue to exist assists like breaking down a lot of those barriers. You know, but that's also on a microscopic level. That's on a show level. That's on a band level. Right. In terms of this country, I have no fucking clue. It's like, it's upsetting me every day. Every day it's a headache. You know. Yeah.
Well, because it's that simple premise that the way that he kind of like addresses it in this song, which I think is just amazingly beautiful. Because it's so simple but so precise.
Exactly. It's, and you know, we're now talking 40 years ago.
Right.
And like, listen to the fucking song though. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw an interview with what's his name, Terry Hall recently, where he kind of mentions that how it's just like, we've been singing about this for decades, and we can't believe we're still here.
Still poignant. How is this still like a super poignant song? Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's on a microscopic level. The best thing you can do is, you know, invite people to shows that you wouldn't necessarily, or go to shows that you wouldn't necessarily go to, like support bands and projects and things of that nature that, you know, help support stuff you believe in.
Right. All right. I know that was a big one. It's not like a trick question or anything. It's just that you picked this record, man.
That's true. I knew it was happening.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Concrete Jungle. Very different tempo here. Very much a change in pace.
Yep. Brought it up a little bit.
Yeah. So, well, this is just a battle cry, huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward. I'm just going to go ahead and ask you, what's the scariest threatening situation you've been in?
All right. So I'll do two.
Sure.
Okay. I used to work in the mall. I used to work at Ritz Camera for like years. I worked there for like seven years.
It's Providence Place Mall?
Yeah, in Providence Place.
Okay.
And there was a point in time where my partner and I shared a car, and she worked in an office, and so I would like take the bus into the mall, and then she would pick me up like when we closed. There was one day that I was on my cell phone and walking up the hill next to the Capitol to Smith Street, so she could pick me up at Smith Street, and a dude tapped me on the shoulder, and I was on the phone with her, and I turned, and dude sucker punched me in the mouth, and I dropped my phone and grabbed my phone and like took off running. And I was just like I wasn't hurt, but it was like, what the fuck just happened? What is going on? Like, also, how, like, it was very much a sense of bewilderment than like fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously then that leads to fear, because then you're just like, now what do I fucking do? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Lost my phone.
Exactly.
What the fuck? I just got hit.
I just
What's
got hit in
going
my
on? Am I
face.
okay?
Like, yeah.
Is my face broken?
Right. So that would be one. The second one was also in the mall.
The mall's a great place to be, huh?
Dude, the mall used to be a crazy wasteland. Like,
It still kind of is.
it still kind of is. Do you remember when 50 Cent came out with that wonderful movie, Get Rich or Die Trying?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, sure.
I remember the album, actually.
All right. There was a movie.
Yeah, all right.
I use the word wonderfully loosely.
Sure.
It was not a great movie.
I'm-
But for some reason, and I found out the details later, the theater at the Providence Place Mall had two movies of it running at the same time. Apparently, one of them ended up being filled with Crips, and the other one ended up being filled with Latin Kings. This was not necessarily on purpose. This was not planned at all. And both got out at the same time,
Oof.
at closing, like at the same time, like when the mall was closing. So I remember like looking out the gate to like, is it closing time? Are we like there? And literally a sea of people coming towards me, like all screaming and also like kicking the shit out of each other, but then not like running, but then like, and I just remember closing the gate and being like locking it and just being like just standing there watching this sea happen and being like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like, you find out later details, and then there was like the gang department of the police was then there at the mall every weekend in case something else happened, and it's like it was a perfect storm. Like, that's not happening again.
Right.
But like, yeah, I just remember like looking out and just being like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That would be kind of scary, because it's terrifying too in the mall, because it's like
in
that's
general.
the third floor,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We were on the third floor by like Nordstrom.
So I'm
in the
just
corner.
thinking like any asshole just like pushes anyone over the railing, just whoo.
I
That'd
mean,
be gross, horrible.
that is if you ever look into deaths at the mall.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's been a few.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, that
it was,
sucks.
it was definitely like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
No.
Cool. Well, yeah. So I mean, concrete jungle, living in a weird.
In a weird Providence concrete jungle.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it's Too Hot.
Too hot.
Too Hot is the next and last track off this side. All right, it's Too Hot,
Too hot.
which it's not right now. Actually, it's not very hot in here at all.
I apologize for the lack of heat.
No, it's okay. So I don't actually have very much about this song. I just know that it's a cover of Prince Buster.
So Prince Buster was we could say that he was one of the first UK like ska artists. So obviously everybody knows like Selector Specials, like all the two-tone like Madness, things like that.
Right.
But people like Prince Buster are the reason why ska music in general really got popular in the UK.
Right.
He was definitely one of the first artists there to like be creating like reggae and ska and things like that, like before two-tone with like the introduction of more like white elements, if you will.
Yeah.
I feel like that's also why if you listen to this song sounds like a first wave song, like musically, like lyrically, obviously it's the same specials. They're like, still talking about political
They took
aspects.
their liberties with the lyrics. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Prince Buster was also pretty political, but
Right.
yeah, they definitely changed some stuff. But musically, it's like, it sounds like it could be a Studio One recording. It sounds like very Scatolites. It sounds very Wailers, those like first sort of like blur the line between reggae and ska
Right.
like bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I actually don't have a question for this song.
All right.
But with that being said, it is kind of it probably is a little poignant to mention that this album was produced by Elvis Costello.
Yeah, kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't hear it too much.
He definitely let them be them,
Right.
which I think is what makes this record so special. Is that like it's a producer that was not trying to put their own like fingerprint on it.
Right.
And I feel like that's what really makes, in my opinion, a good producer. Like for a band that already, like it's a band that has a sound.
Right.
You don't need a producer, and Elvis Costello is smart enough to be like, this band is good and I should put my name on it because that would make sense, but I don't need to like put my fingerprint on it.
Yeah. So we're gonna skip a bunch of the songs on the second side.
That's fair.
Would you say that the B side of this record is a little flat?
Yes. I feel like this is definitely indicative of the time, but also a lot of bands probably fall victim to this, where this record probably could have chopped off at least 2 songs. Had them be B-sides on 45, something like that. But you want to fill your record.
Right.
Like everybody wants to, put all the songs on it. And I definitely think they front loaded like this
Right.
LP.
It's top heavy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Which also is indicative of a band that is writing specifically for a record. So they know that somebody's going to listen to this A-side all the way through. And like, are they going to flip it? I don't know, maybe. Maybe they're going to put on a new record. Maybe someone else in the house is going to like come over to the turntable,
Right.
They weren't writing like a CD where like it's going to play all the way through.
Right.
You can sort of tell that they were like writing this as a record. Yeah.
Right. But you're right. This can certainly lose some songs. I mean, there's if I'm right, there's like 15 songs on this record.
I think so.
I think there's like 14 or 15. So they're not terribly long songs. I mean, the record as an LP, because back then that's all they would ever really release, aside from like some tapes maybe. Or
Sure, exactly.
They could have done without. I mean, you can see it right here.
Oh, it goes right up to the line.
Yeah,
goes right up.
They filled this.
There's no dead wax on
No.
either side.
No, it's completely full.
Yeah.
So it's like they didn't have to do that.
No, they really didn't.
So I don't know. It's a strange choice, I think. Looking back at it, obviously, overall a very good record.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that this B-side's really, it's the weaker one.
Definitely.
Yeah. So all right. So I only really have 3 questions for you on this side,
All right, let's do it.
and there's 8 songs.
8 songs.
So
That's fine.
we're gonna open up with Monkey Man.
Yeah.
Fragile.
We were just talking about that Elvis Costello producing it. That intro, when they finally kick in, totally has an Elvis Costello vibe.
Oh yeah.
Totally. Like before they end up going into the upstrokes,
Yeah.
like totally has a like the
This
his
year's model era.
Yes, exactly.
Well, because he was also dabbling in a little bit of the reggae. I mean, if think about watching The Detectives.
Totally.
Starts kind of picking it up a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought of that as it was playing, and I was like, oh, interesting.
So my thoughts were that first of all, this is a great song.
Awesome song.
Monkey Man. I mean, what am I supposed to say about this song called Monkey Man? Strange. I didn't know if there was something that I just don't get, not having been from the UK, not being from this era. But I'm obviously opens up the song with him saying this one's for the bouncers.
So I'm pretty sure it comes from most of the time the bouncers like hang out on the edge of the stage,
Oh, okay.
watching and making sure they don't have to jump down and like break up a fight,
Right.
things of that nature. They still do that like at like hardcore shows.
Sure.
So I assume that is where the nickname comes from,
Okay. Yeah.
but I don't know.
It sounds about right. That
Yeah.
seems like a very
The
good
math works out.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move on to a song that I have a question for you.
Sure.
Dawning of a New Era. You kind of get the gist of it there. Right?
Yeah, with that great surf intro.
Yeah, it's a little weird, a little bit of a weird song. So now, lyrically speaking, this song tackles something that I don't understand, because he kind of keeps on mentioning how he's in these different sections that are numbered. I'm assuming it's some kind of ordinance in the city, and there's these different areas, kind of like New Orleans has its what are those called?
Yeah, the awards.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that has to do with that, and I'm not familiar with the history, therefore it doesn't make perfect sense to me, but I can kind of get it.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much like nail on the head, and probably similarly to like in New Orleans, like different wards are socio or economically different.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. So, Dawning of a New Era, with the subscription series coming to a close, in honor of your 20th year in record business, would you consider this you are entering into a new era, or are things going to be business as usual?
Both, in the idea that I've sort of found a new confidence with this subscription series of the caliber of bands that said yes, where up until this point, I generally speaking did not go searching out releases. Like I did not ask like bands come to me, or they're bands I would see live, and I'd be like, oh, it'd be cool to do a thing, like whatever. But I very rarely, if ever, like approached a band that I enjoyed and was like, hey, let me put out a record.
Right.
You know? And so I feel like this has given me a little bit more confidence in the way that I guess people see me. And so we'll see how that changes everything, you know? At this point in time, I have like 2 other releases in the works for like, late 2022 that, so in that way it's sort of business as usual. But,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the business has been slowing down as far as the amount of releases you're putting out in a year.
Definitely.
Right.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that now that I'm self-employed and I'm the only employee I have far less time to devote to putting out releases, and so that slowed down. Obviously the pandemic affects everything,
Right.
but yeah. So in a way, I'm sort of shifting focus to more at the print shop, and definitely picking and choosing a lot deeper on the label.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, man. Next track, if I can read correctly, is Blank Expression. Let's do a little bit of it. So I'm going to kind of go in a strange direction here, so bear with me.
Sure.
So Blank Expression. I saw an interview with Terry Hall in which he was approached with the rumor that he couldn't smile. He was asked by an interviewer, is this like, I've heard this rumor that you can't smile.
Yeah.
Which I guess he kind of cops to. He's just like, yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
correct. But so here's a quote from the Big Issue magazine from Terry Hall. I'm socially inept, but all of a sudden I was finding my voice. It's always been a weird thing that I've never quite understood, but I loved it, and having spent years not being listened to, standing on a stage with a microphone was my chance to share my voice, share how I felt, and maybe make friends. So he's a very interesting dude.
Yeah.
Like, from what I got to know about him doing this research, he's one of those guys that just, like, yes, he has this social ineptitude where he doesn't really smile, he doesn't really seem to show off any emotion. but he's very intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
And he's very conscientious, obviously, because he's one of those guys that is very aware of like the social injustices that happen in the world and so forth, and speaks so openly about them and trying to make change. But with the label having been around for 20 years now, and all of the experiences you've had with it, what are the relationships like with you and the people that you've worked with, like putting the music out?
I like to believe, hopefully, that I still have a good relationship with everybody, actually.
Yeah. Do you think it's strengthened things and also helped you kind of become more connected in the music community?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Definitely. There's a reason why I often use in social media the hashtag Tor Johnson Records family. Like, it feels like we are, you know, like Chris from Jesus Centric and Weak Teeth and a million other bands was my best man. Like, all of the Now Denial guys, like, are 100% family, like, would do anything for those guys. Like, it's, Tyler, Daniel Bean, like, just, we talk to each other on the regular for no reason. It's, it's wonderful. It has really grown my chosen family so much, and I feel like it. So I initially started the label way back when, 20 years ago, to be a little bit more involved in the Providence scene. I moved here in 2000, and I was still doing a lot of things in Boston. I was still in a band in the Boston area, like, and then as that band broke up, I wanted to start booking shows down here, and I wanted to get like more involved in like the scene down here, and I sort of started the label because of that, or like out of that. And I feel like Providence is this wonderful city where if you dive into the music scene, you are a family member for life. Like, throughout the city, everyone here, like, if they see you trying, if they see you putting in effort, or like even just being the person who's at every show, like, you're in, you know? And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well said, man.
Why, thank you.
All right, so next song is Gangsters. Hey, wait. This has Gangsters on it.
Haha.
The digital release does not have Gangsters on it.
True story.
Fuck me.
Also, does this one?
The French copy too?
Yep.
Oh, so you know what? Okay, wait.
And then the French copy is has Gangsters up the top after Do the Dog.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, what's up?
You know, that's what I hate about
Huh?
multiple pressings and so forth, like, because I know I found a digital copy. I've been listening to this digitally over these past few weeks.
Sure.
And there was one issue I found digitally where Gangsters was at the top.
Yep.
They open it with Gangsters.
Which is so weird.
Well,
But
I didn't.
yeah,
I thought
you
that
don't
this
know.
was the original. I thought what I was going by was the original release.
Also, Gangsters is the only song on the record not produced by Elvis Costello, but produced by the band.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that had something to do with some of it, like it being omitted from some of the pressings.
Probably.
Huh.
Yeah.
Weird.
Very weird.
Okay. Well, now I have to skip that because I'm not ready for it.
That's fair. I threw a curveball at you.
Sure. Did you know I was going to do that? Did you know that was going to happen? Son of a
didn't.
bitch. Not you. I'm saying that to myself in my mind.
I wish I was that smart. I wish I was like, haha.
Well, you
He's
know,
gonna
I mean,
get to Gangsters
I
and be all
wouldn't-
fucked up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because, first of all, you are a music fan,
Right.
collector. You obviously know this record. You must have seen some of the reissues and some of the digital versions.
I have, and I always forget. I'm always like, oh yeah, Gangsters. All right.
Hmm.
Oh well,
Okay. Well,
that's fine. We'll skip that one.
yeah. And then the song after that is Little Bitch,
Yep.
which, all right, we'll do it. We'll go ahead and we'll do Little Bitch. You have a lot to say about this, I can just tell.
I hate that these are the lyrics they decided to put on this song because this song is such a good ska song.
It is.
Like, you take the lyrics out of that, like we're back to that bass line, that like bass tone that they had on Do the Dog. It's just the horn section is great. It's got that rhythm. You just want it, like, this is a get the crowd dancing song.
Yeah.
Why did you write these lyrics? Like, it's so upsetting to me.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see it on you. Yeah.
You know?
All right. Well, so that only leaves one more song, which is You're Wondering Now. We're just going to play a little bit of it.
Which I will say is a really great album closer.
I agree. In which we can close out our talk tonight with this song.
Perfect.
I don't really, I don't have a question for this song. I think that it is simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. It's a good, it's a good one to go out on.
It really is. I've seen them 3 times now, and I don't remember the first time what they closed with, but they closed both the other times with this song.
It makes sense.
Really does.
I mean, it's a good way to depart for the evening, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just the tempo alone, you know, the music itself is kind of like a cooling down.
Exactly.
And it's also the message of like, hey, this is the end. You know, it's time to say goodbye, and kind of like looking back on the evening. Hey, it's been great. It's been great.
Exactly.
It's been a pleasure being here. So in closing, this is the end. I mean, that's all we really have to say, I guess.
That's really it.
But
yeah, no, I think we did a great job. This was a great conversation.
Yes, man. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, for doing this, for letting me do the research on this, getting into this record. It's always a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy.